Sorry, Katie. I just said, I swear I know how to do this. Like, why, of the one time, why did it show up that way? Like, that always goes to the other screen. Peter, I swear I know how to do this. I know it doesn't look like it. Now I have to restart the recording because I don't want that. All right, sorry. All right, I'm going to mute myself now. Hang on. Gosh, got to make sure that gets done. Peter, can you see that okay?
I can. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, Sarah, are we ready to get started?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Katie Heiss, for those of you that don't know me or haven't met me yet. I am responsible for rolling out EdPlan SC and working with the districts on getting all of this set up and ready. Sarah, if you want to go to slide 1. And today's update will focus just on EdPlan SC.
Katie, just a moment, please, because someone just kindly reminded me that I needed to make sure I restart the stop. Okay, no, it didn't. Okay, it kept going. Phew.
Okay, the first thing that we have is just the timeline of some of the bigger pieces of implementing EdPlan SC. Looking at those big chunks of what's going on. 2024 will be starting off really busy with getting everything set up, lots of preparations for power user training. We'll provide more specific updates and information as we get them. Some of you are wondering, what day exactly is the launch? We don't have an estimated. We have an estimated time. We're not giving out a specific date yet, but when we have that information, we will roll that out to you. After each slide, we'll stop and I'll ask if you have any questions or any questions or concerns about the information that I've shared that we can address. I don't know if anybody has anything about the timeline. Sarah and I will be looking at the chat to see if we see anything, or if you'd like to unmute yourself to ask a question, that's fine too. Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'll move forward, but feel free to pop in the chat and then we'll go over everything. This is the moment you've all been waiting for, the EdPlan SC updates. Any information we have, we'll get that to you. And then we can move on to the next slide. And a pre-training, yep, I'm going to talk about that next. So Sarah, you can go ahead and there we go. So power user training. The power user training dates are on the left side. So if you're attending from February 20th to February 23rd, then your pre-session will be on February 16th with those 3 options. The 90-minute virtual session. The same thing for the 26th through March 1st. You'll have training, a pre-session training on the 23rd, and there's 3 available times. And then on March 8th, because that is just one day, there'll just be that one session. The links to the virtual pre-sessions will be sent out once all participants are confirmed for each training date. We are in final preparation for power user training. Unfortunately, we had some districts that went over their allocations, and I have reached out to them about deleting participants. If you haven't responded yet, I have districts that cannot register their full allocations, while we have districts that have over their allocations. And I want to move forward with the standby list and those pieces. So if you can please make sure that you reach back out to me to let me know who is going to be attending and who I need to remove from the actual participation list and then move on to the standby list. Otherwise, we're going to have to go through and possibly delete those overages as it is stalling the process. And I've been working on updating the registrations probably for about 2 weeks now, where there was duplicate registrations or there was wrong emails, maybe wrong districts listed. And so it looked like a district had gone over their allocations, but they actually hadn't. Someone just had accidentally checked the wrong district. And so just getting all of that fixed so that when we give that information to PCG to create user accounts, it's accurate. Once the participants for each date are confirmed, I'll be sending out a registration with a link for the pre-session. You'll also receive an email from PCG with a username. You'll need to bring that username with you to the pre-session. And then each pre-session will hold up to 50 participants. So there is a possibility that some of those times that you want could be full during those 2 long weeks of training. So just being cognizant of that, looking at your calendar. I'm giving it to you now so that when the links come out, you know what you want and you can just go ahead and register. Following the power user training, you will be ready to train end users. You'll receive materials to help with end user training. An example of that will be an agenda. So they're going to give us agendas that you can use to train general ed staff. They're going to give us agendas that you can use when you're training, your school psychologist to help you. What are the things that they need to know? And they're in that agenda, and then it'll help you with that flow. There's also going to be other materials, and then they have, videos embedded into the system as well. So when you've been trained in this power user training, you will be ready to train all of your end users. The standby list, we are doing everything we can. We're working on setting up additional training dates. I'll push that information out to those districts that are on the standby list, and it is our hope to exhaust the standby list. So every district gets the spots that they needed or they feel that they needed to roll this out to their end users. We only had 300 power users as part of our contract with PCG. That's why it's really important that we stick with those allocations to start with, because we only have 300. So there was 300 power user accounts created specifically for the training. Once we roll out into the system, districts will assign those power users, and those power users that's why they're called power users. They have special powers in the system. So those are going to be your specific people that you want to have that power. It's not going to be everybody. This isn't something that you're going to want all your teachers to have. It's a very specific setting, kind of like what you have now in Enrich. Let's see. Are there any questions about the power user training, the virtual sessions? One of the things I do need to add for the power user training, lunch will be provided. We're going to do a little bit of working lunch. I will be sending out, when I send out the meeting registration for the pre-session, I'll also be sending out the question of if you have any dietary accommodations that we need to look at, so that we can get those included, because lunch will be provided those days for the in-person sessions. The pre-session is a virtual meeting, Kelly. It'll be a 90-minute virtual session through Teams. And Karen Whitlock, I'll look back at your information. I'll make a note of that and make sure you have everything that you need to register. I did have a few districts that I have contacted because I haven't seen them registered yet, but there wasn't a lot of availability left for them to register because of the overage of the allocations. So another question is, I registered 2 special ed teachers who would assist with end users during the implementation period. So if they're going to be the ones that you want putting in support, desk tickets, help desk tickets, they would have that. So that power user role comes along with being able to submit a help desk ticket. And we could talk more about exactly what that means, Kelly, if you have questions. Some people will have power users that are going to be really just doing the training, but then there's other people that are going to be working the insides of the system. So it just depends. Some districts, one person wears multiple hats. Other districts, they have 5 different people that do different roles, and so it'll look a little bit different for them. The next slide that you see here is the SC virtual office hours. So this will be hosted by PCG. Nick and Phil from PCG will be in attendance at those meetings for those of you that have maybe met them already or work with them. And then I myself will be on those virtual office hours. And this is additional support for district power users. They're going to begin March 12th, and they're going to roll out until October 24th. And so they're starting early because it's there to help you while you're training. So if you start training and you're not sure, of something, or like, I don't remember how to do that, this is a great way you can hop on and get help, get, one-on-one support there. Or you can also either use the QR code or the link will take you to a form, and we'll send this out. So don't feel like, you've got to go in there right now and do this QR code. It's just to show you what's coming. So don't submit any virtual office hour information yet because you haven't had the training yet. So you don't know what's coming. But this is just a piece to show you of what's going to be available. So this QR code or link will take you to a form, and you can put down what topic you would like to see. So what we can do then is provide maybe a short training on how to complete the ESY section of EdPlan SC, how to not write a goal from a compliance piece, but write a goal in the system. What buttons do I push? What information goes here? And so those are going to be held the second Tuesday of the month from 11 to 12:30, and the fourth Thursday of the month from 2:30 to 4. We try to give some various times just to try to meet people's schedules. These are for power users. It should be power users that are attending these sessions. So you can submit information like your topic prior to, or you can just show up and then ask your questions there. Another feature that you will have is submitting help desk tickets through Zendesk, which is their ticket system for EdPlan SC, and power users will be able to do that, and then they'll get back to you. This is just another feature that's more beneficial if you wanted something like one-on-one, or you had time to wait, as opposed to wanting to submit a ticket if it was a big issue that you needed answered more quickly. But this is more for helping you so that you can help your end users with training. Are there any questions about the virtual office hours? And that information for the office hours, the Teams link, that will be sent to power users. So because that's who the audience is going to be. Sorry, Sarah. Okay, let's talk data. So the first part is data integration. And data integration is what we've just been working on, and it's looking at the schools, the school years, the reporting periods, the days, the length of the day, the students, what teachers are pulling over, the staff, assessments, discipline. So it's pulling all over this information, as you can see, from the district data sources, then it's going to the district's data warehouse, and then it's pulling into the state ODS, and then going to our data warehouse. And then from there, it's going to EdPlan SC. So it's not technically a live feed where you're going to see it going from, PowerSchool into EdPlan. There's some background work that goes into that. and then it'll feed into NPlan SC. So we had some very good success with the integration, with the data integration. We had 5 districts that helped us out, and we had some successful testing that went really well. So data integration is going well. Any questions about that data integration? We're going to move into data migration. The power users are going to be the only ones that are able to submit the help desk tickets. What we're looking at is that an end user would go to the power user, and the power user would say, I'm not sure. They would check with the other power users within their district or their network of power user friends. And then from there, they would submit the ticket because they've exhausted like looking at, I'm not sure what's wrong with this. And so it's so that when the ticket comes in, it's not something that could have been handled at the district level and then it overloads the ticket system. Okay, and then moving on to data migration. Okay, I feel like I need like a drum roll. So data migration, this is where we're going to be pulling everything from, or pulling what we can. I'm going to break it down a little bit further, but pulling it from Enrich to the state, and then from the state into EdPlan, where EdPlan SC is going to ingest all of this data. So I've learned lots about data recently, but our first objective is that we want to migrate what's necessary, that live data, so that students with active IEPs can come over. This is what's going to make the system run. So the first objective and what we will be working to migrate is what will allow users to complete processes in EdPlan SC. So, on day 1, they can develop an IEP, complete an MDR. Then we'll move into migrating. So that's the first objective, is getting all of this information for active students. So live data for active students at current data into EdPlan SC, so that we can do what we need to do, which is write IEPs and complete, special ed processes. And then Sarah, go ahead and go to the next slide. And I'll take questions after all the data migration slides because there's 2 of them. So then objective 2 is to migrate the PDFs for students with active IEPs. We are still working on this process. So we have 5 districts that have been helping us with the testing. It might only include those documents that were generated by Enrich. So if you uploaded an outside evaluation, that's not going to pull over, possibly not pull over, unless it was generated by Enrich. It's TBD as to when this migration will occur. As soon as we know, we'll update as we get more information. But we don't have a set date as to when this migration is going to happen. And then objective 3 is to migrate the PDFs for students who are not currently enrolled but were eligible for special education in the last 4 years and are not over the age of 21 at the time that we are migrating the data. Okay, let's see. So some people have been using a lot of, we've been hearing the term like 10 years or pulling over 10 years of data. So just to kind of clarify what that really means is we're not pulling over 10 years of data. We're trying to pull over everything that's available in Enrich for students that have been active, that are currently active or have been active or eligible in the last 4 years and not over the age of 21. So if they were in 4th grade, when we rolled out Enrich, that's 10 years from now. So, or 10 years ago. So some of them might have 10 years of data, but they would have to be very young. So that's kind of what the 10 years, we think the 10 years is coming from. Again, we're not sure. It's all being tested out. I participate in daily data meetings to talk about migration and looking at how things are moving over and mapping. So if it's this assessment in Rich, and now it's called this different assessment, like a state assessment or something with a different name, or we've called it something different, how are we mapping that over so it fits nice and neatly into EdPlan SC? So that's still all under works. Are there any questions on data migration, or does Peter, do you have anything you want to add to that? The priorities, the objectives are in the order of the priorities. Obviously, we have to get the data in so that you can create IEPs. We're hopeful that we're going to meet all 3 objectives. We're just working on that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best way to put it. I mean, obviously, we want to start with making it so that we can do our work, and that you guys can get the IEPs implemented and get progress reports done. So the first thing is getting the live data. The second thing is trying to pull over as much as we can of the static data, the PDFs that are in the system. We're still attempting to get as much as we can, including documents that might have been uploaded. It's just the way that different systems categorize the documents and store them is quite different between the applications. So having that information transfer is proved to be somewhat difficult, but we're still working on it, and we remain hopeful. We just want to give you guys the information as we have that. So does the live data include evaluations in process? We'll have to talk more about that. So it's basically you're going to have to close out what you have in the system when it goes dark. So in Enrich. So in other words, it can't pull over evaluations from Enrich into EdPlan. No, I mean there's not that capacity to just transfer it like it were a transfer student. So the data that's being pulled over are the data on the prior slide. If you look at the data on the prior slide, that's the data fields that are capable of being transferred from one system to another. So Sarah, if you could back up one slide. These are the types of things that can be pulled over. So you'll have to re-enter evaluations that aren't completed on that date. But we'll be working on with you guys on how to do that, and providing some tools and resources to assist with that process.
So during the dark period, we'll only have read-only access to Enrich. You can look at it, but you can't make changes to it. Because when they hit that button to migrate it and start pulling it over and for EdPlan SC to ingest it, any changes that would have been made after that won't be into EdPlan. So that dark period, you'll be able to, we're planning on having read-only rights for Enrich through the dark period.
Yeah, so you will still have access, and that's a key thing. So we intend to keep access to read-only access open to Enrich so that you're able to see your information. You just will not be able to create any new documents or work on any documents that had been started prior to that date. So there'll be more information on that specifically as we get closer on how to address evaluations. 10 years ago when we switched systems, we did this too. We had any evals that were in progress, we had to essentially recreate in the new system once it went live, and keep track of those evaluations outside of the system. Obviously, you would continue to hit your timelines, but we'll be talking more about that and what resources you'll have available to basically work outside the system.
So yes, only finalized items will be pulled over during the dark period from Enrich to EdPlan SC. The meeting chat's going too fast for me. And then all items should be finalized before that dark period date. I don't know that they need to be deleted, that I just think they won't pull over. I'll have to ask on the data team exactly what, I don't think they'll have to be deleted though. I think they'll just sit there. They just won't go anywhere. And Monica, yes, we'll give you a drop date to ensure. I would start that drop date being like, prior to June 1st. So what is that, May 31st? Like would be a drop, like that would be my temporary drop dead date. But I don't know, that's just the one that I would be working with.
Yeah, we have looked at district calendars, and so actually a few go into June, but we're not going to disrupt the regular school year. So we're likely going to be right after that, after the last regular school date. And I know there's some year rounds, but basically those that follow a traditional school calendar, we've been looking at the dates so that you'd be able to utilize it through the last day of school. But you'll get a timeline. You'll get more information on that one.
And then the question came through, will we be able to keep the read-only rights for the first quarter or more? So for right now, we're saying that we'll have the read-only rights, that OSIS will provide read-only rights, read-only right access during that dark period. We don't have a date on when we will no longer provide that access. We did have a meeting with Frontline, and they are supposed to be providing districts with information if they're wanting to use it. And what they're offering is a read-only write access to Enrich. So before it was like eVault, they're not calling it that anymore. It actually will just be the system, and you'll be able to pull documents off of there, but you won't be able to do anything else. That timeline of events, Peter, I don't know if you can answer that question. I may have to go back and see if how that's going to look when it pulls over.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same. I mean, this is
Same.
something that'll make more sense when you get through your power user training. In other words, it's not exactly the same as Enrich's view history. So they do have, things similar to the chevrons that were in Enrich, and
there's a profile page,
and they do have some historical lookup. It's just different. I would on that question, I'd wait to see when you go to your power user training to see what EdPlan shows versus what Enrich shows as far as that goes. But it's not going to be able to recognize necessarily actions that occurred, but it does have a way of organizing the documents. So hopefully we can get those documents over, and then you'll be able to see the documents with their dates. That's the goal. So any PDF that comes over, it would be the document type and the document date.
Any more questions about data migration? And feel free to always email me. I've been getting emails. I will answer to the best of my knowledge of what's going on and what updates we have. Some things I can't provide a hard answer on because we're still in the process, like data migration. But if you have questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out, and I will get those addressed. We want to make this as smooth of a transition as possible. And so that is my role, is to help us as we transition into this.
And then there was just a comment about closing it out. Yes, that's true. You want to close it out by the end of your school year. I mean, May 31st would be, and you don't want to leave any open documents. But we'll give you a heads up in as to when the drop date is for that.
EdPlan SC, so moving forward with language translation, there's going to be 6 other languages in the system that the documents are going to be able to be translated to. So they're listed there. Spanish translation will always be available through the contract that we have with EdPlan SC. So we're basically, or PCG, we're basically piloting the other languages just to see, you know, are they beneficial to the districts? Are they being utilized? So we'll be looking for feedback from the districts as to, yes, we are using this, you know, this language frequently, or we're not using this one, so that we know, you know, is it beneficial to you? Is there potential, because there could be potential cost savings to districts. So again, we'll be looking for feedback on that. The print document will have a disclaimer on the bottom that it's not the official translation. So again, if the parent is requesting an interpreter or for an IEP to be translated, then the district will still have to provide that.
And just to be clear, so Enrich just translates document headers. For example, on the IEP, it does have complete Spanish translations for some documents, but it only has, for the IEP, it's only going to translate the headers. This new program, EdPlan SC, does have the capacity to provide real-time translations. Those are not official translations. It's with a it's a step higher than Google Translate. It's Google Pro, but the accuracy is still not 100%. But this should make it easier for you guys when you do get it translated, because I would recommend that if you send it out to a translator, you would send them the English version, and then you would send them the translated version that came out of the system, so that they can work off of that and edit it as necessary to make it accurate. And that type of translation is definitely a lot faster. And hopefully a lot cheaper for you guys to get than starting from scratch and taking an English copy of an IEP and translating it 100% into another language. So we see this as being a possibly a very beneficial component, but we wanted to just let you guys know, if it's overwhelmingly from the districts that this is something that you need to keep, then we will look to keeping it. Like I said, Spanish was built into the contract, but the other languages, the other 5 languages were added as a part of negotiations and as a pilot. And we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it delivers and is really helpful to IEP teams working with parents who speak or who read in another language.
So
And then,
some,
yeah, there's that enriched knowledge meeting that they mentioned, Katie. I don't know if we got that link, but I think Lori James is running that meeting, and they may be going over. I don't know if we got confirmation that they're going over the pricing, but it's possible at that meeting they'll talk about it, about the
Yeah.
read
I think that was
read
one
only
of the
version.
that was going to be one of the topics that they had shared with us at the last meeting, that they were planning on going over that information. Yep, that's what Emily said. Lori told her. Yeah, that's what we had heard. I don't think I have the link for that. If someone really needs it and they don't have it, you
There
can
you
reach
go.
out.
Somebody
Oh, there we
posted it.
go. Thank you, Emily. Okay, so moving on to just some additional information. There's going to be a training site. So currently we have Enrich University, and districts are able to use that. I'm sorry, not districts, colleges and universities. So we have the same thing for EdPlan SC, and there is a lot of positive feedback. It sounds like there's some excitement around it. We've contacted all of the colleges and universities that we could find with special ed programs, to include school psych programs. So we've gotten a great response, and we're going to begin working with them on training during the spring and summer. So again, the hope there is that when you have pre-service teachers, using the system, when they come out into the field, they're already going to be familiar with it a little bit. So that's kind of the goal there. We just talked about the read-only option, and Emily, thank you so much for providing that link. And then there's going to be additional virtual training on components in EdPlan SC, reporting, for example, for power users. Once there's more data into the system once people actually are starting to use it to create IEPs, and we can run reports and do different things for reporting on our data or making reports. There'll be more training on different components in the system. And then the other thing we just want you to remind you is, to communicate with your district IT and administration that this change is coming. They should be aware of it from, I know they did at the IT roundtable, it was discussed. The big difference, I think, for us is that, this used to be housed on district servers, or VC3 had some of the systems housed there. Instead of it being all these different instances of Enrich, it's going to be one instance of EdPlan SDN on a cloud. So there's not going to be those, different updates. It's going to be a one push update. They typically do their updates like on a weekend. So like you wouldn't have access like Friday night to Saturday morning, which for some of you that work a lot, it might be a good thing to have a little break. So it's making you have that break. So any questions about that?
There was a question about the sandbox. It's basically, you'll have a training site and you'll have your actual site. Now, some of the things you might want to see to kind of learn it and play around in the system, you'd want to go into the training site, because it will have fictitious students in there. So once you complete your power user training, you have access to that training site, and you can go ahead and go in there and start looking at some of the students and doing some of the functionality. You'll also have your site, but there's not going to be any student information in it until that information is transferred over. So that would be your actual district site.
And it's not, it's like a sandbox, but they're not calling it that. It's a training site. So you'll have your training site and your live site. And so there will be, so that will work during the dark period too. So you can train during the dark period. You don't have to worry about, okay, I can't train in June because everything's closed off. So you can do the training. So you can start training, and that's, I think we put that on the first slide, that we're looking at people to be doing training, from March. I don't know if anybody's really going to be doing it as early as March, but from March on, through August. So for the users in the training site, the way it'll work is the power users will be given kind of like a roster of accounts. And so say they're going to train gen ed teachers on utilizing the system, looking up accommodations. They will have training accounts with a username and password that they can provide those users when they come to the training. And so that'll all be reviewed and discussed when we do the power user training. But there's usernames and passwords for the trainers to share when they're providing and conducting the training. Each district will have an elementary, middle, and high school setting within their training site, and then they'll have students, fictitious students in each of those. Some will be gen ed students that you can do the whole process through, and then some will already be eligible for special ed, so that you'll be able to train. Okay, I don't need to take this group of participants through the whole eligibility process. I only need to show them this piece. Then you can use those fictitious students that are already eligible in the system. So Wendy, I think that should answer your question. You don't have to wait. You can start as soon as your power users are trained, you can start training.
May I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to pretend I'm a special ed teacher and I'm getting trained July 22nd. So everything is live. Do I see my caseload of kids in the system? Do I have to re-enter all of the IEP information? Do I have to re-enter the goals so I can do progress reports from fourth quarter? I'm just trying to get a sense of what that workflow is like so we can begin planning our training dates in July?
So that'll all be integrated over through the data integration and the migration. What they're setting up is that users will be able to go in and complete processes. So they'll be able to do progress monitoring on goals because they'll be in the system. So that's what we're currently working on right now and testing with other districts to make sure that again, we're going back to like the mapping, and if a district had one word in their goal area of need and then it's not an ed plan, how is that going to map over? So looking at like different issues with drop down lists, at the beginning of Enrich, when power users could kind of go in and change drop down lists, we still have some of that as that we're showing as when we're pulling over some of this data. So just kind of working on all the hiccups before we try to bring over all of the districts at once. So it'll depend on, I mean, when you're training, you can use the training site. Maybe if you're doing like it's a work session, and so you're having them go in and look at everything so they're familiar with it. Power users will have the training during the session on how to set roles for users. So when they're brought over, when all the users are brought over into EdPlan SC, they'll be giving like a no access, like a basic level where they can't do anything. They're just in there. And then a power user will need to take that person or that user and assign them a role. And then from there, they'll, depending on what their roles are, they'll be able to work through. They'll be either able to do their own caseload, or someone will have to assign their caseload depending on what the district decides to do. I can. It is, well, I guess I should ask Peter. Peter, I can share that. Who's participating?
Who's been assisting?
Yeah.
Well, we've been getting assistance. I mean, there's two ends. One is, pulling. Some districts have been testing the ingestion into PCG. Other districts have been we've been looking to extract information out of Enrich. So there are different districts that do that, but the ones that have been taking a look at EdPlan SC, and right now it's been primarily data integration, because that's been the majority of the testing that's been done for that end of it. Looking at the PCG end of it, it's just been data integration to make sure that it's hooking up essentially with the PowerSchool information that we get and from the other data sources at the district. And there was a question about Rally, but that all of them feed through the district ODS to the state ODS and then to EdPlan. So regardless of the source, if it's an application that your district is using to collect data or is being used statewide, that information is going to go into the district ODS and then be fed to the state ODS and then accessed through EdPlan. You can share the 5 districts who've been helping us
So
look at that.
Yep, those specific districts that have been helping with the data integration and now the data migration have been Oconee and Greenville, Bamberg, Richland 2, and Lex 4. So we're very appreciative to have them on board and helping us to work out some of the kinks so that when the other districts we go to pull that data over, we've already worked out a lot of the issues that sometimes happen when you're trying to migrate data and migrate a lot of data. If that helps. Are there any other questions about this slide or the rest of the information? We are conducting a pilot training. I talked about that on one of the last calls, previous calls, and we're having some districts help out with that. We're having SC teams there, some OSIS members, and so we're gonna do where we're actually having the training done. PCG is gonna come out and conduct the training, And then we're going to kind of critique it and make sure that what our end goal is that when those power users walk out of that training in February and March, that they are confident that they're going to be able to train the end users. And so we're putting a lot of things in place to try to ensure that the training's on point, the resources and materials that they're sharing are effective and helpful. We want it to be a beneficial training because this is important. And so we want them to feel confident when they're going back to the districts and training their end users.
Yeah, and a lot of you guys will be the power users. So we want to make sure that you have what you need to have that training. We feel that it's a lot more robust than what we had 10 years ago when we switched systems before, as far as just the amount of materials, the ease of accessing the training site, the number of fictitious students that are in the system, and the fact that they're up to date and have
And they'll be
useful
continued.
information.
Yeah, they'll be continued to be refreshed. That's a good point, Peter. So you won't have, a 24-year-old that's DD in the system. Like kind of currently we do like in our training or in our sandbox. So they'll be refreshed so that the dates kind of match the grades still.
And we're hoping this switch, gets us kind of back on track too with the pre-service, like Katie was talking about, the pre-service teachers, getting exposure to the IEP system before they even, get hired. So that's, I think, a benefit also of a switch, is that sometimes it reignites that, and getting some of our professors in those programs reacquainted, or maybe even acquainted for the first time, if they've been, they're new to the university that they're working in now. They came from another state, but getting them to utilize the system in their coursework, so that students, aren't coming to you with no exposure to it. So we're hopeful that this ignites that as well. One other thing I wanted to say was just that the goal, which makes a lot of sense, is if you look at the diagram on the data migration, the goal is that we can have an ODS or a data warehouse that essentially has documents or information from the source, what should be the source. And so for certain things, EdPlan SC, or currently enriched, it's the source document. So anything that the law provides is an IEP team decision, like LRE, like services, accommodations, that feeds back into the state ODS and to the data warehouse, so that we have a single source collected in a single source. So all the different pieces that come together for a student information system, because it's usually multiple applications and not just one, that's all going to feed into one source, and the one that takes precedent is the one that's considered the primary source for that particular piece of information. So anything special ed, that's IEP decision, that the source will be EdPlan. For other things like demographic data, like parent contact data, student grades, student attendance, discipline data, that comes from other sources. Assessment data comes from other sources, and it'll be fed into the state ODS, and then whatever's needed into EdPlan SC. So yeah, that was the Rally and EdPlan. Like I said, it's Rally is would be another data source. So we'll have to, as the rollout happens, which data fields will roll over. That's still yet to be determined. But basically, what's needed will come through that data feed in the kind of in the progression that's shown in that flow chart.
I don't see any other questions, but again, feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have about the process. Or if you're not sure about something, or if you're not sure about who you're sending, or any of that information, just let me know and I'll work with you on that.
So next time we'll have a presentation from DDSN talking about autism services that are provided by DDSN. And then just so you know, just like we've done in the past, we'll provide updates, on the transition to EdPlan SC and other things. We didn't go over some of the offerings for SC teams because we did that just last week, but you can certainly look back at the presentation to see those upcoming events that we're having for professional learning opportunities and other groups that are getting together through SC Teams. If you haven't get a chance to look at it, SC Teams website, the combined website has launched, and we'll most likely be talking a little bit about that next time. And because there is a function in there to submit. There it is. There's our SC Teams website. We've launched it, and it basically combines the resources of all 4 technical assistance agencies together in one place to try to make it more beneficial to you and user-friendly for you. And we'll go through next time. We'll talk a little bit about how to fill out the request for assistance. We already have a FormStack link for you guys. It's built into this website in case you want to go that way and submit those requests to us. So we'll go through that next time. Fair enough. We so the agenda we can send out. Sarah, if you want to, for the ones that we have, I think we have some topics. I mean, usually we know the topics. A lot of the times, particularly for this one, the information is flowing. So I'm trying to give you the information. We're, as an office, trying to give you the information as soon as possible, and a lot of times we don't get it till the day before or the day of. These information sessions, but we can certainly let you know what the main topics will be for each one, so you can plan accordingly. And if it's something that's not as urgent for you and you have other things, then we can certainly let you know that in advance. So the next session, like I said, we'll have DDSN present, and then Sarah, if you don't mind sending it out, I think we've planned out the next couple now, so we can send out what the topics will be for the 2 in February and then the first one in March. But of course, at each ones, we will also provide updates.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. Do you want me to tell them right now what's coming up?
Sure, you can tell them.
Don't need to keep it a surprise, right?
Yeah.
So they've already confirmed. So yeah, February 6th, that you saw on the slide, is DDSN talking about their services for individuals with autism. And then the next one in February, which is the 20th, is also DDSN transition services. And then the first one in March is, let's see, March 5th. And that is the individual who coordinates what we're calling the LIFE program, but that's not what they call it, I don't think. But it's the programs at the Institutes of Higher Ed for individuals with significant cognitive supports needs. So she'll be there on the 5th and talk to us about what those are all about.
Yeah, so they have a consortium.
Consortium.
The LIFE programs, they have a consortium, and this is the director of the consortium they'll be talking to it. And just to talk about the differences of the programs among the universities, I mean, we're lucky in South Carolina to have as many as we have for such a small state. As a matter of fact, a lot of their seats are filled by out of state, just because we have more capacity here in those programs than they have in other states. But we did want to make all of you guys aware of the differences between the programs and all the programs that are available. They just, I believe, opened one up at USC Aiken.
Mhm.
And so the other piece of it that we'll look to get, hopefully, and I'll work with Sarah on this, is to get there is different ways to finance that parents could finance, and different scholarships opportunities. The consortium will talk about that, but also there's the the equivalent of a 529 in South Carolina for people with disabilities, that you can start an account much like a 529 college account. So we're hopefully we can get the director of that to come talk to you guys a little bit about what that entails, so that you can pass it on to parents.
And Wendy, it looks like you have your hand raised. Is that from currently or from earlier?
I have a question, but I feel
Okay.
kind of ignorant, so we can wait until the end if other people want to leave. Unless I have the green light.
All right, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm feeling very ignorant about how, and I saw that flow chart, but I need to blow it up because I couldn't see it much on my screen. I'm talking with my IT person, my accountability person. We've got Power School. We use Enrich for MTSS and our IEPs. We also use Enrich to host all of the testing data. And we really want teachers to have a single sign-on so they can access everything. So Peter, is that flow chart that you were describing the goal, like everything is housed in one area so you don't have to go to all these different databases to find the information you're looking for?
Yeah, I don't think we won't. I'm getting an echo. Is somebody else hearing that?
Yeah, we can hear your echo.
Yeah, I do too. I'll shut my
Yeah.
mic off.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay,
Yeah.
that seems to be better.
Oh yeah, it's gone.
So basically, you're not going to be able to go to one source necessarily to capture everything. Anything that's state purchased, like the assessment system, like the IP system, that does feed into your district ODS, which then feeds into the state ODS. As far as your other applications, if you're using, Enrich for your 504s, you'll have to log into Enrich to get your 504 information. There's really no way to make all that get together. But you can get the majority of your student information system data will be in a kind of in a single, could be accessed through a single source. I mean, for entry, it's different. For data entry, obviously you enter things in PowerSchool. You won't have the ability to log into, let's say, EdPlan SC and then alter your PowerSchool information. You would have to go back and enter your PowerSchool information in PowerSchool, but that information will then feed into EdPlan SC. So when it's updated in PowerSchool, it will get updated into EdPlan SC, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? EdPlan SC is not the testing data source. EdPlan SC will be able to access testing data, Monica. So it's not that EdPlan SC is replacing the Enrich Assess. It's not replacing it. So it's not the source database for that information. But will it be able to access that information through the ODS? That's the plan.
So if that's where our district has been storing everything, do we need to start having conversations about where to store that data moving forward?
On the assess data,
Mhm.
that component, I would talk to ORDA for that, our Office of geez, I don't even know. We use so many acronyms. Research and data. You know, it's Dan Ralia is the director, but they would have that information on that. I'm not exactly sure.
But they're working on something on their end then?
Yes.
Okay, all right, cool. Then I will step out.
Yeah. That's not us. But
No, I knew
they're-
that. I
yeah.
just didn't know if anybody knew. So I thought.
Yeah. No,
People have asked
that's a
me several
different
times, and I'm like,
different
"I don't know."
procurement. Yeah, no, I don't. That's a different procurement, so I can't
Gotcha.
really
No
can't
worries.
really speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
The PowerPoint is in the Google Drive now. And the link is over in the chat. Multiple times. Sorry about that.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thank
Thank
you.
y'all for your hard
Bye.
work on this.
Thank you.